This is, of course, Zack Kanter. He is the founder and CEO of Stedi. How you doing?
Here we go, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for hopping on.
Great.
I feel like I'm surprised. I feel like I've never met you in person, but I know you from the internet for so long. So good to finally meet.
We're Twitter friends, you know?
Yeah.
It's how I meet many of my reputable and disreputable friends.
Exactly. But for those who haven't been following you in your journey, since it is the first appearance, please introduce yourself and the company.
Sure. I'm Zack Kanter. I'm the founder and CEO of Stedi. It's spelled S-T-E-D-I. We're a healthcare clearinghouse. So if you're not familiar with the world of healthcare, you know, we exchange the administrative transactions that power all of healthcare. You probably heard stats like this before, that healthcare is 18% of US GDP. So it's a pretty meaningful chunk of the ecosystem. But, you know, you go into your doctor's office, they ask you for your driver's license and your insurance card. And then they tell you your copay is $20 and you have 3 visits left and all those details. That's a transaction called a real-time eligibility check that happens under the hood. We process those. We process tens and tens of millions of those per month. And then when you finish the encounter, whether it's a surgery or a teeth cleaning, whatever it might be, they have to send a claim. There's a series of messages that come back. So it's an adjudication message that comes back saying the claim is rejected or accepted, and then the claim gets paid somehow. You know, you get those things in the mail that say, this is not a bill, explanation of benefits. Yeah. Your doctor gets one of those as well. They can get them via paper, but they can also get them electronically. And basically, we process all these transactions back and forth.
And why can't a registered nurse just vibe code a system to do this for them? I'm just kidding.
Well, it's a funny question. Like, you know, it's interesting. So we primarily, you know, we think about our business as selling to other technology companies. You think about us as like the Stripe of healthcare.
Yeah.
But we've seen a surprising number of these small and medium-sized doctors and dentist offices that are signing up. And so we recently did an analysis and spoke with a bunch of these places, and it turns out that indeed doctors are vibe coding revenue cycle management systems. So you know, it's not thousands of them, but it's dozens.
I knew it just happened. That's amazing.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
What have been the key milestones for the business? You're raising new money today. Your name is Stedi.
Yes.
John was saying how he's known you forever from the internet. I feel
steady wave away.
Just steadily.
Here we go.
Chugging along. But yeah, what does this milestone represent? Like, what did it take to get here? Healthcare, every healthcare founder will tell you that it's obviously this big, massive market, but you know, doesn't move as fast, and it can take years to make progress that another industry might happen in a quarter or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, you know, we didn't start in healthcare. I don't come from a healthcare background. I previously started a brand of auto parts. So I manufactured auto parts in Taiwan and China, and, you know, follow the typical auto parts to healthcare pipeline, as many vendors do. And in building that business, you know, I sold to O'Reilly Auto Parts and Amazon and these different retailers. And I had to, at some point, it was probably in like 2011, the transaction volume got such that it wasn't feasible to have these things manually entered anymore, so before AI. And so I reached out to all the different retailers that I was selling to and asked them to send me the API spec for their purchase orders so I can automate the transactions. And over the next 2 weeks, they all wrote back and they said, "What's an API?" And so things got a little bit better since then. But what I found out at that point was that this whole world of retail, logistics, supply chain, transportation, et cetera, manufacturing, is powered by a technology called X12 EDI. And so if you see Stedi is spelled S-T-E-D-I, it's because we started with this underlying EDI technology. And, long story short, maybe long story long here, I got so frustrated with the various EDI systems that were out there. So like, look, what I want to do is I want to receive purchase orders in. I want to get them into NetSuite. I want to have those automatically sent to a warehouse. I want the warehouse to ship the order. I want the transaction to come back. I want, when things come in via Flexport, I want those things to, get automatically pushed into my system. This can't be that hard. Kind of famous last words. And I got so sick of the solutions that were out there that I ended up having my own system built. And then, I ultimately sold the auto parts business to a private equity firm, and I started Stedi. And I spent like 50 grand on, which was, it was a bootstrap business. So spending 50 grand is a lot of money. 50 grand on building this homegrown platform. And I was like, it's going to cost like 10 times as much to do this for everybody, for all transactions. I was like, but to be safe, you know, as margin of safety, I'll raise $1 million instead of 500K. And, you know, now we've raised $142 million total. And I think we you know, still have more to do.
It's gong time. It's gong time.
There we go.
There, what?
Thank you.
What's your favorite car?
Favorite car. You know, it's funny, like I grew up, you look at, you know, the Porsche 911, you say like, that's like a car that old guys who don't know anything about cars buy. And then you go and you drive one. And it actually turns out that 911, you know, 60, 70 years of iterative design is pretty good.
Yeah. What kind of auto parts were you selling? I'm in the market to pick up a straight pipe exhaust system. I was a birthday present for Jordy. I'm hoping to give him some LED underlighting as well. Maybe stance his car. Were you doing anything like that?
I can hook you up.
You can help.
We're gonna,
That's
it's gonna be like, you know, TBPN, Am I Right edition.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. I want a horse. You like horses? We put a horse in your car. We put a gong in the passenger seat. You can't transport anyone, but it looks good.
John has been trying to get me to go the Mansouri route.
Yes.
For years, and he will be doing it until
you got to do it until you do it.
Out of this earth.
Until you do it with the full sponsored livery wrap.
You guys hiring? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Engineers. Product.
Talk a little bit about the company culture. Where are you based? Are you in person, remote? Like, what's the scale of the company right now?
So we're about 125 people.
Wow.
We're distributed. We have a bunch of people in New York, but we've got people all over the place. I live in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And look, I think, you know, with the talent wars, you know, there's obvious pros to being in person.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're kind of making the implicit decision that you're going to exclude 99% of your potential hiring pool and saying we're not going to be able to hire those people. Yeah. And for us, we think the trade-off's worth it. So we're all over the place.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Well,
so great to finally meet.
Yeah, great to finally meet.
Amazing progress.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Have a good one.